Hi everyone. I'm going to take this opportunity to put measurements on my ground plan, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to do this too. So I'm going to place. Remember in class the other day I drew this out on this onion skin paper, and what I'm doing right now is I'm sort of looking at this distance right here on either side of that return masking flat that I drew in. So I'm going to just make sure that sort of is relatively even, so I understand where my center line is. And so this looks to me like it's not quite even, is it? I'm going to go back that direction a little bit so that roughly I'm going to find the quarter-inch side of my scale rule here, and so roughly that between the edge of my proscenium and that corner of that flat is roughly about a foot on each side. And so I'm going to use this to sort of draw in my center line, and I just want to do that so that I can make sure that I have the center line on this top paper. So if I move it away, from my paper that's underneath, which I'm eventually going to transfer this underneath onto my ground plan piece of paper. This will help us be ready for class tomorrow. So I'm going to now go along on all of these walls and give it a dimension. So it looks like I've drawn these flats in at about 3 feet. I'm going to extend that and make it 4 feet. 3 feet is a little short for a return flat. 4 feet is it's a number that we often use in the shop because sheet goods come in 4-foot increments, and so I know that it'll make it easier for the shop to construct. So I'm just going to sort of turn this a little bit here and see that that's roughly so actually it's a little more, it's more or less 6 feet. And then when I go and transfer it, I know I can make sure that it's 6 feet exactly. And then this little return wall right here, it looks like that's 3 feet, and that's a number that works okay. You'll see I like to work in round numbers. So this looks like it's about 4 feet between these 2 points right here. So I'm just going to call that 4. It looks like this masking flat that I have behind is, I have it drawn in at about 6 feet. It may be that I don't need it to be completely 6 feet, and I can check eventually once I can check sight lines. But if this is a hallway, it looks like even the person in the most extreme seat, excuse me, this extreme seat way over here, they wouldn't see too far back inside there past this little bit of the wall and what's beyond right there. So it doesn't really need to be super long. It looks like this is a long wall in my set, and so you may have yours broken up into smaller pieces. It looks like it's pretty close to as I draw it in. It looks like it's pretty close to 16 feet. It's maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to just sort of make that a little bit more regular, and I'm going to call that 16 feet to there. And so that wall is 16 feet between there and there, because that's kind of a regular measurement. Half of 16 is 8. Half of 8 is 4. 4 is one of those regular measurements that plywood and that sort of thing, drywall, those type of building materials that they come in. And so if you can make relatively regular measurements like that, you're going to have an easier time. And it looks like to my doorway there, if I look right here, I'm going to rotate it up so maybe you can see it. That's 4 feet right there. So I know that section is 4 feet long. How wide is my door? It looks like my door is really wide, probably way too wide. And so I've got it drawn in about, it's about 5 feet or so. We know it's probably more like 3 feet. So I'm going to put it on 3 feet right there and draw over to that. So right here, So sometimes when you're sketching, you kind of get it right, and sometimes you get it a little bit wrong. So that's 4 feet, 3 feet on the other side. That's 7, and if I'm going all the way to 16, so there's 16 feet right there. That means there's 11 feet on this side, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 feet on this side. And I'm only breaking that up so that I can remember what these numbers are when I go back to start building these separate wall pieces in my model. So I'm going to keep going and just measure all of these. That's about 6 feet, and then this is my hallway out there, and looks like that's about, I've got it drawn in at 12, but I think given the sight lines I can probably make it 10 feet when I redraw it. So I'm just going to keep drawing around the room, and we'll catch back up to you here in just a second. So that's 3. This wall looks like it's, let's call it 6, and I'm going to make this side 3 again so that I've got that symmetrical thing. This little jog, that's 1 foot right there. And this return that goes down back to the set looks like it's 5 feet. And then I have my returns. So now I have my measurements that I can take and transfer them onto this piece of paper, and where I can draw them out a little more cleanly with my measurements. So I'm going to do that now, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I'm starting again. And I'm going to be transferring these measurements that I've drawn onto my little bit cleaner looking ground plan. And I'm going to measure out, because I remember what I had drawn on my ground plan up here. I know that my wall came out 1 foot. So I'm just giving myself a little mark at 1 foot past, because I know that's where I need my mark to be. And so now I'm going to measure over 4 feet, because we decided that's what the measurement was on these returns. So that's 4 feet. But I'm going to move it up a little bit from there. And so I'm going to draw that line in at about 4 feet, and it's about 1 foot back from the proscenium edge, or the plaster line is actually what that line is called. Now I'm going to draw a straight line across so that I can make my measurements over here. You see I drew a very lightweight pencil line? That's so that when I come back I can kind of see that, and I can put my 4 foot line on it. Now traditionally I don't recommend that you use a scale rule to be able to make straight lines on your ground plans, because you can get little notches in them, and it may not be 100% accurate. But I think for this exercise that we're drawing right now, I think that's going to work. That's going to work just fine. Here's a measurement that I kind of need from this wall that has the fireplace on it. I need to know how far away from. So I'm going to measure this point right here. How far away from the center line is that going to be? And that will give me my angle when I look at my ground plan. So it's 12 and a little bit more, so it looks like it's halfway in between these marks right here. So I'm going to call that 12 and a half. And if I measure straight up off of my original line, looks like that's 6 feet. So from here, I'm going to measure up 6 feet. Actually, if I do that, I'm going to come straight up. This is only so I can get that angle. You could kind of guess at it a little bit if you wanted to. And now I'm going to figure out that point right there. That point is now 15 feet. So from there, 12 foot 6 minus 15 gives me 3. So I know that I'm going 3 feet this direction. So if I come straight up and put my straight edge on the 3 foot mark and measure over 3 feet, that's how I know what the angle of this wall is. And that also lets me know that it's 6 feet long. Hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, I'm going to now measure over 3 feet, and I know that's 3 feet straight across. So I'm measuring over 3 feet straight across. And then I remember that it's 4 feet exactly going upstage. So I'm just putting my straight edge down, and I'm just using these markings. And then I come over from that point. It looks like we decided it was 16 feet. So I'm going to put 16 feet. And I'm going to draw a line, but I'm going to make it a little bit of a lightweight line. So it's not super heavy because I know I have to take a doorway out of it. So now I'm going to measure over 4. And then I'm going to measure over 3 more because that's where my doorway is. And so now I can erase that. And I know that's where my doorway goes. So now on either side of my doorway, I can use my straight edge to make that line a little bit darker now. And now I know that I can come in here and start drawing in where my bay window is. So I know that first one is 3 feet. I'm going to measure straight over on my 16-foot line and see how far over that is. So if I bring this point straight down, I know that's supposed to be 3 feet. And I measure over from this point, it looks like that is about 2'6". So if I measure over about 2'6", and I come straight up, I know that's the point where I want I'll find it. That's the point where I want this angle to be. So I've come over, and so now if I draw straight over the 2'6", and I measure up in 1/4" scale how far it goes, it looks like it's about 1'6". So now I'm going to measure up 1'6". So that point right there is where the angle of my bay window is. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? That's where I've drawn that in. And now I want to come across, I know I want to make this a 45-degree angle there. So if I do that, I'm going to kind of guess at it. I know I said that I wanted that to be 6 feet. So I'm drawing that in at 6 feet. And then I know the other side of the bay wants to be 3 feet long. I'm going to kind of guess. So there's kind of what my bay looks like. And then I'm coming straight down 5 feet, it looks like. Maybe I don't have 5 feet, though, because it looks like I did it a little bit differently than I did in my original. So it looks like it's maybe only about 4 feet now. If we come over, and can you see that I am further on stage now than I was before? That's okay. All we have to do is we can either adjust this angle once we start putting our flats together, or I can bring this flat a little further on stage. Either way works okay. Likely I don't want to keep it this way because I want these two sides to be symmetrical at the downstage edge. So now I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to measure over so that I can see where my masking wall goes. And it looks like I've got it drawn in about 4 feet over, and I showed that it was about 6 feet deep and about 10 feet going this direction. Okay, so that was maybe kind of a quick way to get our, and that's how my door goes. Kind of a quick way to get our ground plan drawn in, but having these accurate, or relatively accurate, should I say, dimensions, it'll make it easier for me when I do my sketch model. It'll also make it easier when I try to do our SketchUp model in 3D when we transfer this ground plan into the three-dimensional world. So, I'll see you all in class tomorrow. I hope you get some good out of this video. Take care. Bye.